He led a national restaurant franchisor famous for its big boy sandwiches. Today he leads the organization that produces one of America's top fireworks shows and America's Thanksgiving parade. Anthony Michaels, President and CEO of the Parade Company, is this week's leader on leadership.
Knowing when to ask for help is critical when you're in a leadership position.
It's getting the best out of people. That's the essence of leadership.
Major funding for Leaders on Leadership is provided by Greenleaf Trust.
Helping people manage their wealth, accumulate assets, and preserve those assets for generational continuity implies trust. We are sitting down on the same side of the desk as you are. We're planning for your financial needs.
Additional funding provided by the Wayne State University School of Business Administration.
Welcome to Leaders on Leadership, here with a student audience on campus at the Wayne State University and Detroit Public Television, Midtown Detroit studio. I'm Larry Fobes. Tony Michaels has led 2 Detroit traditions, one commercial and one not-for-profit, and both with national reach. Thanks for being here, Tony.
It's great to be here, Larry.
You did your college work at Central Michigan University. What did you study?
I studied business and marketing as my major and had a blast doing it.
Why marketing?
Love marketing, love the whole idea of it, being able to really push things and to inform people about what's great about companies and brands is an absolute blast.
Now, I met you a couple of months ago for the first time at the offices of Eisbrenner Public Relations, and you immediately struck me as a CEO who could sell anything. How do CEOs go about selling the brand or the image of their organization, whether they're not-for-profit or commercial, to external audiences when they're out at meetings and doing appearances, but not be pedantic or even irritating?
I think the real key is passion and knowing that you have a quality product and quality people and great people behind you. It makes it very easy. And then to be passionate about that, and most importantly, to be consistent. To always be consistent, and then you've got a real good program going.
So you can't fake passion?
I don't think you can fake passion at all. I really don't. It's got to be there. You've got to believe in your brand and your product and your people.
Now, CEOs also have to sell the brand image and the mission to the people who work in the organization so they get excited about it, want to make the organization move forward and not just be clock punchers. How do you do that?
Well, without a doubt. And the real key is to show everyone that you believe in it and that you're there to improve it, make it better, and to give those people this wonderful feeling of ownership and accountability and allow them to really take these jobs on and to not just be order takers or simple project people, but to really jump in and to really truly dive in, make it happen, and feel good about it. The next thing that happens is they're coming to you saying, I've got an idea, I've got an idea, and I've got an idea, and then it really flourishes from there.
And then it takes off.
Absolutely.
That's cool. Yeah. Now, your first big piece of your career was with a company that later became known as Big Boy International. Mm-hmm. Around here, we kind of think about that as a hometown favorite, but the company really started in California back in the early days.
Yeah, Bob Wyan really started Big Boy in Glendale, California back in the 30s. He had this amazing idea to create, it was a diner, and this fella came in and he ordered 2 hamburgers, and Bob Wyan decided to put them together and create this double-decker, which was really the first double-decker. And a kid named Richard Woodruff came in. He always had overalls on. And they had a designer really create the Big Boy character off of Richard Woodruff with the overalls. And that was really the start.
Now, I've read a couple of different versions about how you joined the company first time. What's the truth?
Well, I was probably 14 years old. And I worked every summer in the commissary in Warren, Michigan. And just started learning the company, graduated from Central Michigan in '81 and came on full-time and worked in numerous areas and ultimately took over the marketing of the company in 1987 and worked my way up until 1998, when Elias Brothers at the time had made some ill-advised investments and so on, and the company was in a little bit of trouble, and I became the CEO, and ultimately had to put together a financial plan with the help of great financial people, and what would a new company look like if it were purchased, the assets purchased, and I went out and literally found a buyer, and it was a good story.
But even before, and we're going to dig into that a little bit more, but before you became CEO, you were, marketing was a large piece of your work. That's what you
Yes.
studied, that's what
Yes,
you
sir.
do. When Elias Brothers, who was a regional brand,
Yeah.
bought the parent company from Marriott in
Yes.
those days, how did it feel going from doing marketing for a region to doing marketing for a nation overnight?
Well, it felt great. It really did, because we were allowed to spread our wings. Now, the key is how do you get the other franchisees at the time to accept that a previous franchisee was now the franchisor of the system. So there were always those situations, and getting them to listen, believe, and give input. But we got there, and we started to grow the chain. But as I said, Elias, there were some ill-advised investments and so on along the way. But the great fun was working on the national basis with syndicated spots in different markets and things. It was great fun.
Now, you talked about that when you took over, the company was going through a rough patch.
Yeah, 1998.
When you
yeah.
became CEO. Then in 2000, you took the company into Chapter 11 and launched a whole bunch of initiatives to bring it back.
Absolutely.
Now, some of those things were, first thing, one of the things you talked about was get the finances fixed and develop a whole new business strategy. How do you lead the company to focus on the future when you're not quite sure about today?
It was really about quality, and can we instill the quality that had been there for years and really improve upon that? Because if everybody in the team was behind the quality statements and the quality belief, then you can start to build momentum. And that was the real idea, to get the quality back and to get the loyalty that all the people had instilled in this company for years, to really, really work and to let them know that they're part of this new quality statement. The next steps were to create a new prototype, something that was different and new with the design of where this chain needed to go. And that was a huge project. We ended up winning Design of the Year in 2005.
How do you convince employees when all this chaos is going on in the company and probably in the media? How do you help them have hope in the future, keep focused on their day-to-day job, and also help reinvent the company for the new world?
Passion. It's passion and belief in the quality. Because if you are willing to have every meeting discussing improvement and the ability of that team to really step in and take ownership, it just starts to create, it's like a snowball. It just keeps going and going. And that belief was there, and people just put in hours and time and thought process, and how do we get there, how do we get there? And each of these steps along the way, these milestones of winning the newest, hottest design in restaurants, or the Hot Again concept in 2006, these were great milestones for everybody. Simultaneously, we had to work on the franchise division and try to get people to invest back in. So we were just in a major process of that, in the middle of 2000.
One of the other things you did is you went out looking for a buyer of the company. How tough is it to think about selling a company you've worked for and with that many years, and have to sell it?
It was a very strange situation. The Elias family at the time knew that the company had to be sold. And it was very difficult. So putting together that financial package and going out and seeking a buyer was a very difficult thing. Not to say time-consuming and all, but it was a huge responsibility, and I had great help with some wonderful people. And it was a successful transition. It really was. And yes, it was difficult because I had worked for the Eliases for so many years. At the end, they understood what was going on, and they felt that their brand was ending up in good hands, and that was a good thing.
Now, you talked a few minutes ago about a lot of the changes you made to things like menus, things like the building, the physical plant, the look, the whole business strategy of the company.
Sure.
How do you lead that kind of evolution to, I assume, attract new customers and more customers, but be careful to not turn off the customers that like the old way?
That question is too good. You need to know, because those are the issues. You create a new design, new way of doing things, but the key is that everything's about improvement and quality. So people start to understand that that's really where you're headed. The other part of it was we kept top of mind out there at all times. The belief was to have a big boy sign everywhere you went, to really, really drive it that this chain is healthy, strong, and it's really coming at you with what you love. That was the idea.
I saw a report where you mentioned, I think you described the whole situation as you put the big boy on adrenaline.
Yeah, kind of on steroids. We kind of pumped it up. Yeah, absolutely. And that was the idea, is to be out there, be strong, the passion, the quality, and I hate to be redundant about it, but that's really it, because if you fall off of that path, no matter what company you're running, what company you work at, if you fall off that path, that focus of where you want to go and what you want to do, you're going to literally fall off that path. And that's not a good thing, because you're talking about a marathon, not a sprint. And so you've got to maintain that focus and where you're going and what you're doing.
We talk with CEOs on the show, and they say variations on that same theme quite a bit, that being a successful CEO isn't about having an aha moment at the last minute of the board meeting, but it's about working 24 hours a day, 8 days a week, and just working on the issues and getting them right. Is that how you see it?
I see it, it really takes a focus around the clock. Like, whether you're sleeping or not, it's 10 o'clock at night, or you're sending an email, whatever that is, whatever you're doing, there's just something about that business is always on your mind. So it's not being in the office for 24 hours, that's not it. It's being in tune 24 hours and being so in tune that ideas and thoughts fitting with the focus that you have come into play, and it really makes a difference. It's very hard to explain, but it's like a disease almost. It's a good thing. It really is. It's a good disease.
You used the word passion 2 or 3 times. Is passion part of the reason that you're thinking about these things at 11 o'clock at night instead of watching the news and thinking about them at 5 in the morning? Is that how you keep? Is that how people who are passionate about their jobs keep going?
Yeah, I really think I think that's exactly it. Also, our wonderful gang at the parade company will tell you, I bring in both newspapers every day. And I say one of the rules is you got to read the papers both days, the Detroit papers. The idea is that ideas just hit you at some of the strangest times. And to know what's going on in your market and what's going on with the important things in the city, the region, you just trigger thoughts. No matter what time it is, it just happens. And that's all part of it, just staying in tune with your surroundings.
When those ideas happen in the middle of the night, what percentage are good and what percentage are bad?
They're mostly pretty good. Sometimes a little crazy, but the one thing you really have to guard from is saying, like, we're going to do this. It's just an idea. It's just a thought. So, my habit, whether good or bad, is to either text somebody or send an email in the morning and just say, what do you think? Or in the morning, grab them and say, is this a thought? Is this mud that sticks on the wall? Or does it fall?
As a CEO, as a leader, how do you establish a relationship with the other people in the company so when you say, what do you think, they give you their true opinion as opposed to saying yes because it was your idea?
That is one of the most difficult things, because I really, truly want everyone's opinion. So that's a difficult issue, because they really have to believe me. You have to have the input. And the other part of this is those ideas can come from anywhere. From anybody. I mean, if they make great sense, they make great sense. And they're up for discussion. So it's very important that it's a two-way street. And maybe that's what frees up, the thought process.
Now, and then in about 2009, you started developing some interest in some other opportunities, other challenges outside of Big Boy. What kind of things were you looking for in your next job? Were you looking for location, work sector, community involvement? What was on your mind?
Well, I was working a couple of projects, and a couple of major things came up in other states. And I flat out was not leaving Detroit. This is home. This is where my family's been raised. This is where my friends are, my extended family of all my business friends and so on. And this was home. And it was quite interesting how the whole parade situation did evolve, because I had been on the board for probably 11, 12, 13 years, something like that.
So we're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna come back and talk about leading the parade company. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Thank you. Welcome back to Leaders on Leadership. Joining us today is Tony Michaels, and we're talking about his leadership at the Parade Company. Tony, the Parade Company is known to people in Detroit, but for people outside of the region who watch the show, what is a Parade Company? What's it do? How's it do it?
Well, that's one of the great questions, and one of the great projects that we're working on is to answer that for everybody. The Parade Company is a nonprofit. It owns and operates, puts on, produces the Target fireworks, America's Thanksgiving Parade, Hobnobble Gobble, these wonderful, great Detroit events that bring people together and create smiles. That's the Parade Company, and located right here in the city of Detroit.
That doesn't sound like a real business. That sounds like a lot of fun.
You'd be amazed. It is a real business. It really is, because you've got to go out and you've got to really talk to people about contributions, sponsorships, being a part of it. We have 2,500 volunteers on a roster, and without those volunteers, our events just won't come off the way that they do. We have a wonderful staff of 14, 15 people who just give their heart and soul to this when you talk about passion, because everyone believes in what this does for the city of Detroit and the surrounding region.
What was the biggest shift when you moved from being a corporate CEO to a not-for-profit CEO?
Tough question. Oh boy, that is a difficult question, because I've been asked that a lot, and probably...
Or maybe what's the same?
Well, a lot of it's the same. Probably the passion of the people is sometimes a little bit stronger maybe in the non-profit, because they choose to do this to do great things in a city and for other people. And it does make a little bit of a difference. Not to say that people at the other company weren't passionate, they were completely passionate. But this is for other reasons, for making other people's day a little brighter and a little bit better, and doing good things for a region, which is a pretty strong statement.
One of the obvious differences is that in a corporate CEO, you earn your money, the company earns its money by selling goods, providing services.
Sure.
Now, at the parade or at the Target fireworks, most people don't pay anything to attend.
Correct.
How does the parade company get its money, and what's the CEO's role in making that happen?
The parade company gets its money through the wonderful generosity of many corporations, donors, and just great people in this market. It is amazing to see the phenomenal corporate support that the parade company really has. And if I started naming corporate names, I would leave 200 out. But it's that strong. We have an amazing board of directors of 30 business leaders here in the Detroit market. Great chairs. Sandy Pierce is our chair right now, Matt Cullen, the previous chair, Debbie Dingle, Dave Brandon. It's just a phenomenal lineup. But it's all about belief in what this group does. And so companies, when we call on them to sponsor floats and create new programs for them, their ears are wide open, because this is about what's good for Detroit.
We talked about you earlier being a salesman. What is the CEO's role in raising the money? What do you have to do?
We have the Fulkerson Group, which handles the sponsorship sales, and I am probably their third wing. I go on major presentations. I may meet with heads of companies prior to the presentation, but knowing that that is a major part of my role as the president and CEO of the Parade Company is to work on the real fundraising part of it. It's what keeps us going.
Now, you've talked in other venues about wanting to expand on the platforms of the parade and the fireworks, mm-hmm. and enhance them a bit. What do you do? Do you put more floats in the parade and more booms in the fireworks, or
well,
what does that phrase mean?
A couple of answers to that. To make the parade bigger, bolder, to make the Parade Company bigger and bolder, we create larger floats, create 100-foot floats, not 30-foot floats. We create activation with corporations, contests in their stores, such as a Blue Cross or Art Van type of situation, where people can enter to win various contests in conjunction with WDIV or WJR and the parade company. We also have a core competency that we view that we need to build on, and that's building props and building other type float items or mascot costumes for corporations and companies, which we've really keyed in as one of our focused areas, and we're having some wonderful luck here in 2011.
Now, the official title for the parade that's held here in Detroit on Thanksgiving Day is America's Thanksgiving Parade.
Yes.
There's this little event in Manhattan, sponsored by a department store down on 34th Street, that also does a parade on Thanksgiving Day. Do you see them as competitors?
No. We are, we're in our minds a different product. They are phenomenal. That is one fabulous parade in New York, no doubt about it. We're a little different product. We're building our own floats, doing a lot of local, very large sponsorships, but we're also on a syndicated, not national, but syndicated broadcast throughout the nation. So we're in 130 cities. They're in a national broadcast, so they're in every city. We're the second largest parade. Of course, they're number one. But we look at it a little bit differently, that how can we reach this community and reach the country and put Detroit on a stage in a better way than ever before. That's really how we view our mission.
Now, when you're achieving that mission, you talked earlier, you said something, permanent staff is 15 or 20 or some number of people,
15.
and thousands of employees,
15, yeah.
or volunteers.
Volunteers, yes, sir.
Thousands of volunteers.
Yeah.
Interesting leadership challenge, leading events this large with mostly volunteers who I'm assuming don't have the detailed experience or maybe even the expertise as if they were paid staff. How do you make all that happen as leader?
We have an amazing volunteer program where the volunteers are literally trained. They come in and they go through classes, whether it's balloon school or various marchers and so on. It is amazing. But the commitment of these amazing volunteers is off the chart. They literally just really, really thrive on this involvement with the parade company. So their ears are open, they listen to what our amazing staff has to tell them what they need to do, and they do it. They're just the greatest people in the world.
When you came into this job, you came from a completely different industry.
Yeah.
So then do you assume that leadership skills do transfer sector to sector and they aren't job specific, or is leadership skills more about the person?
The whole concept of leadership, and I come back to it again, is if you're passionate about the product and you know you've got a quality product, you can run quite a few companies, you can do quite a few things. But the key is you've got to choose or be lucky enough to fall into something that you can really, really get behind because it's a great brand. That's what the parade company is.
Now what you fell into, this great brand, it's also a local heritage, a local tradition. Just quickly, how does that impact the way you lead as opposed to if it was just a company selling widgets?
It's just powerful. It's a powerful, amazing brand, and it means so much to the people in this city. When that parade comes down Woodward, it is such a charge. And when you have that behind the brand, you've won in so many ways. And now just make it better and really, really allow the staff and the team to be part of making it better than ever. And that's really the secret, in my opinion.
Okay, Tony, I've got one last question.
Sure.
There's parades and fireworks shows in most towns across the country. A lot of them are suffering from financial difficulties because of the economy.
Right, right.
Let's assume, hypothetically,
Okay.
you start a new company and you're going to franchise fireworks and parades work across the country. The challenge is to make them more efficient so people can afford them, but to also make them unique for that community so that they have their own traditions forming. How are you going to lead that project?
How you lead that project? You study those markets, you understand what works, what doesn't work, but you come right back. No matter what you're doing, you come right back to quality. And what does that mean? What does quality mean to the people in that market? And it could be anything from more child-oriented, more adult-oriented, who knows? But you study it, you understand it, and you bring quality to the table. That's how it's done.
Thanks for being here, Tony.
Thank you.
Please join us again next time for another edition of Leaders on Leadership. See you then.
Major funding for Leaders on Leadership is provided by Greenleaf Trust.
Helping people manage their wealth, accumulate assets, and preserve those assets for generational continuity implies trust. We are sitting down on the same side of the desk as you are. We're planning for your financial needs.
Additional funding provided by the Wayne State University School of Business Administration. An encore presentation of Leaders on Leadership is available online for viewing at dptv.org.